And I'm live. Good morning, everybody. I know that it is late. We have been working technical difficulties. There was no way that we were going to have my special guest, Kai Grant, on and not be able to hear her. So we could not get that sound corrected. And so, what we're going to do next week on Wednesday, she'll be here. We're going to go and sit. So we'll be sitting in the, she and I will be in the same space. So we won't have an issue around volume. I don't want you to miss this conversation. It is so important and critical. Dianne Wilkerson with you this morning, WWOCradio.com. You know what it is. It's Woke Women Wednesday. And like I said, we had a wonderful program. We've been working and tried everything. Couldn't get that sound to work with our guests. And but we're going to fix that. We'll be back next week with her. I always want to thank the Sisters with the Vision. There's so much going on that we need to be talking about. It's almost, let me see, 2 years. Actually, it'll be 2 years next week. May of 2020 when we started this journey with you. And so I thank the women with the vision to know how important it is for us to have a medium that we could talk and share information with you in a timely fashion, because there is so much information to share. Since May of 2020, we've been here on Wednesday mornings. I come at 11, try to, and bring you all things. We say all things Black, Brown, and COVID. And now COVID means everything, because COVID has really just inched its way into every single aspect of our lives. And so all of the decisions around us are being made for our children, how they're faring in school post, I won't say post COVID, because COVID's not over. Our message from the Black Boston COVID-19 Coalition is that COVID ain't over until it's over. And we might be finished and tired of COVID, but COVID ain't finished with us. So continue to be vigilant and wear that mask, right? Absolutely have to. Good morning, Robinson. Good morning. We have to. And also just know that we're going to talk next week about what's happening. All of a sudden, this conversation's all around us. And I will leave with you kind of like a fundamental question about how we really move forward in this whole racial justice space. Because it's been the conversation, right? Been the conversation since right after we got to see the public execution of George Floyd, and corporations all over the country, if not the world, talking about equity and how we turn the corner and what do we do around centering compassion and dealing head on with racism and declaring racism a public health emergency. By the way, it still is in the city of Boston. And so many people have been talking about, well, how do we do it? And one of the things that I really, really stressed early on was that, we're going to say some things that offend people. White people are going to say things that may not sound right to us with good intentions, that we have to be patient, right? And also we're going to say things that may not be received in the way and the manner in which we intended, because it's hard to talk about racism and historical and generational burdens and be polite, right? If you can find, it doesn't work well for me trying to do that. But here's the thing. We have to start with a premise and the basis, some kind of foundation. My foundation is that when Black people or Latino folks say that what happened or what was said or what was done is perceived to be racist, we gotta start there. Like you can't tell me, right, that what I'm saying is racist to me is not racist. It may not feel that way, but you don't get to say it's not. But here's the other thing you don't get to do. You don't get to determine what your recompense is. And I think that is really what we're going to talk about next week, because I was struck by the planned rollout of the Harvard University report on yesterday morning, in which they did a 134-page report. If you haven't seen it, please Google it, on their role in slavery. And of course, we've known it all the time, but they actually did what I consider to be an incredibly thorough review and their role. And even in that incredible, thorough review, my guess is there's still probably some atrocities and horrors that they don't really own up to. But the bottom line is that they did a report. Almost maybe less than an hour later, Harvard University issues a statement announcing that to compensate in recompense for their role in slavery and acknowledging such, that they are creating $100 million fund. Now, imagine in court being able to walk in, plead guilty, and then determine what your own punishment should be. I think a lot of people, I'd like that. I would have liked that. I think a lot of people would have liked that, right? But that's not how it works. And so, if Harvard University is truly serious and focused on this, and 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 wants to do right for what they did, because what they did is affecting the residents of Greater Cambridge and Boston today. Of course it is. Because when you rip out the very foundation, inability to own land, inability to sign contracts, then what you or and confiscating land, which we now begun to hear stories about that happening all over the country, right? Um, you deny generations of people. Generations of Black people were denied the right, the opportunity to accumulate wealth in the same way that the rest of this country, that white people do it. How? Warren Buffett, anybody doubt that he knows money? He said there are two ways to accumulate wealth: investments, right? And you see all the high tech investments, or through the leveraging of real estate, which for most Americans, white Americans, began with owning land or home ownership, which you grow equity, it increases in value, and you turn. And so in Boston numbers, what that has resulted in is that in 2022, the average white family in Boston has assets of $248,000. And that really means, in the median estimate in equity or value on a home, which we know is much higher, but that's $248,000. We'll take that number. But it also is the case that in 2022, and that is not accounting for losses that were absolutely sustained during COVID, the asset of the average Black family, as a family of four, is $8. It is totally explained in the lack of ability to put on the table a homestead, right? So in the same month, Wells Fargo report, we find that they were rejected 50% of the Black mortgage applicants. In the same month, article, we'll talk about it next week, Globe talks about the sustaining discrimination that is going on in mortgage lending in Greater Boston. And so when you put all that on the factual table, and it's not our facts, it's the facts, right? Right? There's no way you could have a different scenario than $248,000 versus $8. So we're gonna talk about that next week. I'm not gonna stay long because we ate up much of our hour, our 30 minutes, really trying to get the sound done. But we'll solve that next week by just being in the same place, because you have to hear Janie Grant's story and take, the founder, a co-founder of the Black Market. You have to hear her take on this, because it comes from several generations of being a Black Bostonian as a family, and it's a powerful reminder of the history and current facts and how they come together that a lot of folks don't want to talk about. So that's all I'm going to say for today. Bottom line, Harvard University, no, you don't get to decide on your own what your recompense or punishment or whatever you intended the $100 million trust fund. You know, Harvard University's got endowments in the billions of dollars, right? All built on that. And so $100 million for them is probably a blip, a bucket, a drop in the bucket, right? But yes, Heidi, we're going to talk about gentrification on a real factual basis, streets, names next week. I'm so excited for you to hear the presentation and the whole pitch of Kai Grant. Can't wait. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm signing off. I apologize because I was so anxious and excited. We've never had this issue. Couldn't get the sound right. We couldn't hear her, and we don't want you to miss a word that she has to say. So I'm going to see you next week. Signing off. Dianne Wilkerson, Senator Dianne Wilkerson, signing off to you for Woke Women Wednesday. Stay tuned. You know, and what comes in the evening, my fierce and fearless warrior sister, City Councilor Julia Mejia, she closes it down. But we talk about all things Black and Brown in Boston, and we'll continue to do that no matter what. So thank you, Debbie, Heidi, bless all of you who are I see today. Be here next week. We'll be at 11, and you won't want to miss it. God bless. Bye bye.